wreck avoidances,
Stay low. He's high, stay low.
daring passes,
Oh, you're gonna get it.
silly jumps,
Oh my god, a drive-through.
the thrill of victory,
They're against the wall. Good win, Mark. Stay low.
and the occasional mishap.
My sim crashed.
This is the DMLC Racing Channel.
A new beginning with familiar faces. For the first time, Lionheart is going back to its roots. 18 races to determine who is the best and the most exciting form of auto racing on the planet. 200-mile-an-hour Indy cars, inches from disaster or glory. There can only be one inaugural champion, whose name will be etched into the Lionheart history books. Find out next. The Lionheart Speedway Series, presented by DMLC Racing Channel, starts now.
Just a week ago, it was Robert Malechka on series debut, continuing a storming start for the rookies in the Lionheart Speedway Series as he swept pole and the checkered flag at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. We now venture back to the heat of the desert and short track racing, a staple of Lionheart competition. It was series veterans that took victory in both the Lionheart IndyCar and retro visits to Arizona earlier in 2021. But will we see the next generation of Lionheart continuing their ascent here in round 6 of the Lionheart Speedway Series, the ButtKicker Phoenix 175, presented by Karnox. Welcome back to RaceSpottv and continued coverage of the Lionheart Racing Series, powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows that we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperxgaming.com and don't forget to use the promo code Lionheart15, that's LIONHRT15 for 15% off all orders. My name is Arjuna Kankipati. As always, alongside is Justin Prince here on a Monday night. TV cameras provided by Istvan Ballo and TrackCams22.com, with live timing and scoring powered by our partners at timing71.org, where you can follow along with the best in the real and virtual worlds of motorsport. Let's dive straight into our sim experience countdown to green here, Justin. Back-to-back races in the month of May, and known for IndyCar racing, but we are not in Indiana. Instead, we return to the desert. Jason Galvin took a victory here a couple of weeks ago. That was an emotional one as he bested Adam Blocker in dramatic fashion. Will be interesting to see if he can do the same here today.
I'm very curious on how tonight's race is going to play out for the Speedway Series drivers, indeed, because this has been, in terms of the trends, when you look at both the Retro Series and the IndyCar Series, a track position must-need race, where it's been hard to claw your way to the field, to be able to battle your way through traffic, and to be able to survive potential carnage. And tonight may fare to be the same type of way tonight. Drivers have been saying they've been going near full throttle in some of these corners if they get into clean air. There should be some great battles, though, throughout the entire field, especially in the midst of the pack.
And we looks like as though we've got 32 Dallara DW12s ready to rock here in Arizona. Take a look at the series schedule. 3 back-to-back races in the month of May. We'll head to the Worldwide Technology Raceway next Monday. That will be an interesting short-track battle as well before heading back to Michigan and the next of our super speedways. We're done with one of our Triple Crowns. We won't return to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in the Speedway Series until July. Lots of excitement, of course, starting this weekend in the NTT IndyCar Series. Let's talk about these drivers' standings presented by the DMLC Racing Channel, Justin. Look at how close it is at the top of the heap right now. There is 2 points separating the top 3 drivers. Adrenaline Motorsports are well represented with Christopher and Tony Schowen, but Alexis Newsom has been a revelation this season. 2 victories so far. What can she do? Now representing Team Factory Backed.
Well, the main thing's going to be for one, track position. Whenever Alexis has the track position, Arjuna, we usually see Alexis be one of the main contenders. When it's not the best qualified runs, or she ends up getting stuck in dirty air, ends up going backwards in the pack. So it's going to be very important for Alexis if she wants to keep up the points battle to score points. But was talking to Tony Schowen in preparation for tonight's action, and he had mentioned there's not too much pressure with this tight championship battle that he's in the midst of. It's early on in the season, but still, it's the type of part of the season, Arjuna, where if you want to contend for a championship, you need to be able to rattle off top 5s and top 10s, and a race like this is going to be very critical if you want to get yourself into that conversation for the later stages of this year.
And therefore qualifying, I think today is going to be so important. 3 back-to-back races. We're still early in the season, but you don't want to put yourself on the back foot very early on. Take a look at these team standings. Well, when you see 2 drivers from the same team in the top 3, Justin, you do expect them to have a bit of a lead, but Adrenaline Motorsports are only 5 races into this one, starting to build up a buffer to likes of Team Raceverse and company.
Yeah, the Adrenaline Motorsports machines have been very consistent, especially when it comes to the strategy. And at Atlanta, they look to have a strong strategy, especially with Joe Branch before Branch made his mistake at Atlanta Motor Speedway. So it's been a great season for that unit as a whole. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Factory Back, for example, really start to pick up speed and steam after what happened last round. It's going to be interesting to see which other teams can enter themselves in as dark horses. And I'm not just talking about Dark Horse Motorsports. I'm talking about dark horses in general.
Good little pun there. Some great teams as well that are competing. You see the LPM team, they have not had an easy start to the season. Will things start to turn around here from Phoenix? Take a look at these rookie standings. They have been oh so strong to kick off the campaign. Not just Alexis Newsom. These rookie standings, by the way, presented by ButtKicker. I'm so excited about the run that Newsom has had. I forgot to say that part. Matt Taylor has also been strong, not just in the Speedway Series, Justin, but across of Lionheart competition. Alexander Van der Sant, always a strong competitor, no matter which IndyCar you place him in. And then the newcomer, he only started a couple of rounds ago. Barrett Roll for Ascari Autosport. He's been on an upward trend, has not taken a race victory just yet. But I don't think it's going to be too much longer before he does so.
I wouldn't be surprised to see it come in the next few weeks, to be quite honest with you, with how Rolf has been, especially on some of the bigger racetracks, where if it wasn't for little things like an execution here, or a bad attempt to pass at one track, or in the case of Atlanta, having older tires and just the strategy coming into play in the closing stages, we may be talking about a completely different complexion and how the rookies have been faring out when it comes to Rolf in particular. But overall, you have to say at the very least, the consistency has been there. The rookies have been very strong throughout this entire campaign and been definitely showing their worth. And I think it's going to keep on catching people's eyes throughout this campaign.
And of course, this is the inaugural running of the Speedway Series, so maybe to be expected some more rookies than normal. You had to go all the way back to Season 5 in the Lionheart IndyCar Series to last find the Dallara DW12. These are the series details presented by Minus 273, the premier name in karting gloves. Their industry-leading gloves are super lightweight and durable, made of a breathable poly spandex. Whether you're a kart or a sim racer, Minus 273 gives you the control to reach victory lane. For more information on Minus 273's full line of gloves and apparel, visit minus273.biz, and don't forget to also use the promo code minus273LHRS15 for 15% off all orders. Drivers are fighting over $7,277 in cash and prizes. Triple Crown races we've done with the first one at Homestead. That wasn't a double points race, so that will be very intriguing as we head to Indianapolis Motor Speedway and Auto Club all the way in December, Justin. But the custom fix setup, no in-car tools, that is always the most crucial factor in these races.
That's especially because you have to depend on your feet, essentially, and your hands to be able to control your race car. It's all down to how you enter the corner, how much throttle you input, how much brake you put in. how much you're able to make it around the racetrack without getting yourself either loose off the corner exits or slamming into the outside walls, especially when it comes to a track such as Phoenix Raceway. This is going to be where it's the true test for many of our competitors if they are able to battle their way throughout the dirty air as well, and the aero push and aero wash throughout tonight with those custom fixed setups.
And so let's talk a bit about the history of Lionheart at this track. The DW12 has visited this track 4 times, starting in Season 2. Only 1 repeat winner. At the same time, pole position is only won once. That shows you, I think, that track position is important, but not always the most important, especially when the smallest margin of victory is 0.038 seconds. That was back in Season 3 of the Lionheart IndyCar Series, and just 12 months later, Justin, you get kind of the opposite kind of a trend there. 12 cautions in the race.
This is the type of racetrack which can absolutely challenge the drivers because you're battling wheel to wheel, potentially 2 to 3 wide in the heart of the pack. There is an obvious opportunity in turn for attrition to come into play, and so far this year in the Retro Series and the IndyCar Series, that's been the case for many of the drivers where if you aren't too careful, you get yourself into the most caution sort of trend. But when it comes to the battles so far this year, it's been also trending towards the first of those 2 options, where you have close confine racing, especially drivers trying to find their way to the high side. In other words, we could see it go either way for today's racing. After all, as you talked about, this is a series staple in Phoenix Raceway.
And so 2 storylines, of course, Barrett Rolfe, but also Jason Galvin. Emotional victory in the Thumbs Up Cancer Down race just a couple of weeks ago. Can he win once more in his hometown? All coming full circle. Qualifying underway. Let's quickly talk about this track, Justin. 1 mile in length. It is a roller coaster of a track nestled in Avondale, Arizona. Of course, the most unique perspective of this track is the dogleg out of turn 2, and drivers have to be careful about how they take this track.
It is a closed dogleg, keep in mind, so you have a set of cones that are set up in said dogleg to make sure drivers don't cut the course. Drivers have been warned about the yellow line, in particular in that section of the racetrack, as well in turns 3 and 4 for today. But overall, about 8 to 9 degrees of banking in one end of the racetrack, 10 to 11 degrees of banking at the other end. Slight progressive banking here, and overall, it's the type of racetrack which can be hard to pass at. You have to be very much building up runs as well as balancing out your tires and where you take said runs if you want to make passes for today. And in turn, it's why track position is so critical for drivers today.
On board with Newsom, 2 wins on the season. Provisionally down in 5th position. That will be a better qualifying position than some of our field has had to deal with. Let's check in with some of the other contenders as well. I see Christopher still waiting to get up to speed. Now on board with Matt Taylor, who's very strong early in the season. Justin, he works his way through turn 3, running up on the outside line.
Believe has already turned a few laps here. 17th best, make it 18th best. Not the qualifying run Matt Taylor wanted to have for tonight. For Barrett Rolfe, though, the attention's going to be towards, can he improve in qualifying? That's been one of his Achilles heels throughout this entire campaign. Arjuna has been trying to get track position in turn, has had to really claw his way on forward, has had to take advantage of strategy calls, and right now needing to get some great track position.
So, slightly up in the groove on lap 1, if you ask me. This time, does he paint the yellow line? Yes, he does. 25th provisionally with a 25.33. It's Chris Fowler in the 20 machine. A 19.840 nets him provisional pole with Alexander Van der Sant on his outside. Tony Schowen inside of row 2. Barrett Rolfe all the way then to the start-finish line. It's a 19.941. It's not good enough for pole. That might be Justin in 13th position. His best starting position this season.
Will be one of the best starting positions, in fact, believe. So it's been that type of a season qualifying wise for Rolfe. But how tight is qualifying? How about just about 0.2 of a second separating the top of the board back to the mid-20s? And that's just the storylines when it comes to qualifying here. You have any little slip up, you miss the bottom at one end of the racetrack, anything like that, it puts you behind the 8 ball.
Take a look at the race winner last time out, Justin. I wonder how excited he's feeling about his chances here today. He's got a 100% pole and win ratio, record so far, excuse me. And what can he do now? Very slow on this outlap, if you ask me.
Wondering if right now Robert is just trying to get the tires up to temp at least before he pushes hard, because that's, for some drivers, a strategy. With 183 coming into the corner, and this is going to be the important lap. The second lap is where the momentum's really carried on forward here for qualifying here at this racetrack. Only a 20.6. We'll see if he's going to be able to bump his way into the 19.8.
His teammate Nick de Groot up into 6th. He started the season very promisingly in the Lionheart Retro Series, now jumping into the Speedway Series as well. For factory backed, might have 3 cars in the top 10 for Malechka at the line. It's a 19.865. It's not pole, but it should be 4th position. And indeed, Malechka will line up on the outside of row number 2. This is a great start to his Lionheart career, Justin.
Yeah, great qualifying effort at Atlanta. Great qualifying effort once more at Phoenix. A great start indeed, and I think he's going to be potentially a threat for a lot of these race victories as the season goes on, especially if he keeps up the momentum. But now, it's about seeing which drivers can come on top here. Some of the fans, I think, are expecting a brawl. We're going to see if we get that.
So let's go trackside then and take a look at our starting grid for the ButtKicker Phoenix 175 presented by Karnox. And so on pole position, it will be Chris Fowler. Here's the ButtKicker starting grid with Alexander Van der Sant 0.08 of a second separating first and second. Tony Schowen, running up in the championship, has talked about the need for consistent runs. He'll line up on the inside of last time out race winner Robert Malechka for factory back. Matt Houston on the inside of Paul Jenkins. Great starting position for the 35 iracing racing machine. With Nick de Groot, Alexis Newsom, row 4, an all factory-backed affair. Charles Teed inside of Mike Rigney on the edge of the top 10 with Ken Hacker and Jason Galvin, the hometown boy, starting on the outside of row number 6. Ron Hacker in 13th. He had some fans in the YouTube chat wondering what's happening to him. What can he do rolling off alongside the championship leader, Chris Stouffer. Series organizer George Anzaldo will line up alongside Barrett Rolfe back in 16th. Not the best starting spot for him so far. Can he get his best race finish from there? Michael Hagstrom inside of Jess Young for row 9, with Joe Branch and Dean Moll edge of the top 20. Trevor Malone with Matt Wagner on row 11, with Craig Forsyth and Luis Gonzalez Nunez in the pink and black, 23rd and 24th. The Muscle Man in 25th alongside Brian Greenlee, with Vern Hawkins and Emerson Santos, row 19. Christopher Kresge and Matt Taylor, edge of the top 30. Excuse me, not row 19, row 14. Can't do the math in my head there. Final couple of starters. Jeff Murray is the final car to set a qualifying lap time. Alex Guyon rolls off in 32nd, with Jim Brooks for Area 51 at the tail end of the field. And so as the cars form themselves up in pit road, they're about to begin rolling here. As always, have a number of onboard looks to take you through today's action. Not just these 4, but all 33 cars. Chris Stouffer, though, has the HyperX on board. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers, and HyperX is always ready to game.
Alexander Van der Sant will have the -273 on board. -273, the premier name in karting gloves. Visit -273.biz.
Join Chris Fowler on his sim racing journey through his live streams. Visit Fowler Racing on Twitch, and he'll roll off in the pole position. Matt Taylor has the ButtKicker on board. What you see and what you hear is what you feel. For more information, visit thebuttkicker.com. Competition, commitment, excitement. This is Lionheart, and once more, we are ready to go short track racing. At the front, it's Chris Fowler alongside Alexander Van der Sant as the pace car down onto the safety of pit lane. Let's get the green flag in the air for the ButtKicker Phoenix 175, presented by Karnox. Wonderful launch for the pole sitter. Malechka, great launch as well to get up into 3rd. Not such a good launch from Tony Schowen here, Justin. He defends with Matt Houston on his outside.
Not going to be the launch you wanted at all here at this racetrack, but when it comes to the early momentum, you can power your way in the bottom just like that. Has a pocket of clean air to work with, has a bit of pull though. He has to try and get off the draft from some of these air drivers. The dirty air in aero wash already factoring in for some of these competitors.
Out front, The gap between Van der Sant and Fowler is 0.3 of a second. Meanwhile, in the pack, you see Paul Jenkins. He started up in 6th position. Alexis Newsom, one of the cars, already scamper their way on past. Just behind him, look at the gaggle of cars working their way into turn 1, Justin. Track position is going to be very important right now, and Jason Galvin looks to make it 3 wide.
Back to 2 wide, in fact, and Jason Galvin, of course, a home track for him, went to college in this region, from this region, announced at said racetrack in the past. And we talked about the emotions. This is a track he always wants to try and win at. Just can't get himself a run, though. And what we've seen in both the Retro Series and the IndyCar Series was the outside line, in a lot of cases, was the best line. And that's starting to come into play, where right now Galvin's getting freight train.
Stouffer on pass as we ride on board with the 13 teal and chrome car. Further in front, you can see, Justin, they are single filing themselves out. Let's turn this camera around, and behind them as well, single file. I think you have to go all the way back to 25th position to find some side-by-side action.
Yeah, that's where Nunez is trying to peek out at the moment, but this is to be expected. It's a race where you have to be patient. It's a waiting game. But as the tires wear out and get themselves up to temp, this is where, at the same time, a track where it's so easy for drivers to in turn push into those blue walls. Several times, caution flags have been caused here at this racetrack by drivers around 15-20 laps into a run, pushing up off the corners. So at this point, drivers need to pace themselves to make sure they are aware of that with the aero wash.
And we're being kept on our toes right now, Justin. Look at this back in the pack as we're watching AJ Musselman, who tried to find a way past Brian Greenlee. Caution flag flies. Ken Hacker involved. Charles Teed involved. It's through turn 3, and someone else gets collected there. Trevor Malone in the teal machine just about gets on through. I wonder if it was Emerson Santos that will have some significant front wing damage there, Justin.
I believe T got hit from behind from Ken Hacker to cause that, indeed, with a bit of a check-up effect on how they entered the corners there. And you'll see coming into turn 3, they're already a little bit close and ends up making a bit of contact when they check up for the corner. Looking like it's a 2-car incident until right about here when everyone else starts coming from the pack.
Oh, and you can see that subsequent contact. It's Luis Gonzalez Nunez that gets away with one. They're able to get on the anchors in time, Justin. Not sure who the pink car that comes flying through the shot is.
Yeah, just right. They were already committed, I think, to that second line. That's why we've seen them end up essentially stuck out there trying to make that move. Several of the other drivers, like Trevor Malone here, had to slow down and make sure they tried to dodge it. Well, they chose right for one car, couldn't dodge the other.
And look at the gaggle there off of turn 4. That does mean then, I think, Justin, pit road will be a very busy place. Let's jump back to the live action and see if that's the case. I see Malone on my timing screen is down onto the road, followed down by about 7 or 8 cars from 24th on black. The fuel window, about 50 laps here, very early in the run. It's only the cars at the tail end coming to top off.
Yeah, and the majority of those drivers were involved in incidents, so having to get some repairs done. Indeed, that was Santos, by the way. That was a pink and white machine coming in, having to get a full front wing change. They're going to have to deal with side pod damage. That's going to affect the straight line speed throughout this entire day. But that's what can happen sometimes when it comes to this racetrack, regardless of the car type. It can end up becoming where you try to enter the corner one way, someone else behind you sees an opportunity, tries to set up the run, ends up getting into the back end of you, or you end up having a situation where they're not expecting you to slow up as much as you may be doing, and we see a big-time incident.
So far, relatively clean, though. I mean, yes, there was that bit of contact, but Justin, I mean, we are 9 laps into the race before the caution flew, and they were getting single file, but for the most part, those opening couple of laps was 2-3 wide action, and somehow they managed to get it all clean and single filed out without the front of the field coming across too much trouble.
Yeah, that's just kind of the nature when it comes to Phoenix at times, is running single file, trying to get into a rhythm, just get yourself some laps on the tires. And then in some cases, if you can build up enough of a run, especially trying to get cleaner pockets on the outside, then you can make the pass. But I believe we're coming to the restart already. These drivers have already cleaned up their cars.
No changes for the front 2, but Malechka's up to 3rd with Showin down in 4th. Green flag flies once more in the ButtKicker Phoenix 175. So you have to look for Barrett Rolfe trying to get a move done on Jason Galvin. It's not the greatest of launches from the cars in front as well, so I think Stouffer has checked up Galvin. Here comes that Ascari Autosport machine, but not able to get alongside into turn 3, Justin.
And that's, again, something we've seen for all the races here. Very difficult to get a pass done on the bottom unless you nail it near perfectly right up against that yellow line with momentum. But Jason Galvin just about hit the back end of the car in front of him, trying to dive to the inside a little bit as well. That might set up an opportunity for Ralph to try it again.
Take a look at this wide angle shot that we get. He's painting that yellow line, trying to get the move done. Galvin affords him just enough space. That momentum around the outside holds him on for now. And you were talking about the outside line being the preferred line, Justin. On the restart, I think you want to be down on the inside, but we're working, lap 3 of green flag conditions once more, and I think Galvin is starting to come into his own.
More so when it comes to trying to execute some of the passes is what I mean by that. Yes, you can run to the bottom in terms of the restart, but at the same time, the best line to try and defend as well has been the top line in both the major series coming into tonight for the Speedway Series as well. And you can see it, Galvin's right now doing a great job defending, but the problem is, and this has also been a common trend, you lose a ton of time by running side by side like this.
They are 0.8 of a second behind 10th place Mike Rigney as we ride on board with the Synergy Motorsports black number 21. Ron Hacker in the red and blue as Galvin able to defend there through turn 1, Justin. I think through 3 and 4, it was Rolf who was looking more comfortable. Now what can they do? Single file themselves out? Can they close the gap to the cars out front? Because meanwhile, Chris Fowler, Alexander Van der Sant, they don't want to fight too hard. They continue to pull away out front.
I think that group may have lost a bit of the toe. It's more trouble in the pack.
Dean Moll in the 23. This is coming through the dog legs. Might be a single car incident here, Justin.
No, I think he actually got some help coming out of turn 2. It was side by side with Forsyth. And Craig Forsyth pushed up the racetrack and just clipped the very edge of the left rear tire for Dean Moll and sent him around.
Oh, and for our race winner in the season opener, Justin, what a shame. Let's see if we can take one more look with maybe the onboard look with Forsyth as we try and pick it up with the 72. Take a look here, sliding up the track as Moll just sending that momentum around the outside, Justin. Unfortunately, just did not work in his favor.
Yeah, especially Forsyth, who was starting to really push up the racetrack, missed part of the bottom of the line. And now, it gets interesting. We talked about it a little bit with it being a 3-stopper on the gas. It's going to be interesting how drivers elect to try and play this now. We aren't expecting drivers to try it quite yet till about maybe lap 28. But if the trend keeps on happening, you may see drivers try and gamble towards the mid-pack. That's what some of them are doing.
And so when the IndyCar series came here a couple of weeks ago, Justin, we had a 200-lap race. So 25 laps longer than the event that we have today. Only 6 cautions on the day. And Adam Blocker led a incredible 130 laps, but it wasn't until the closing 40 when Jason Galvin got the pass done. The question I'm kind of wondering here is, do we get something similar playing out now? Chris Fowler is looking very comfortable. If he gets pipped, is it going to be in the closing stages, and can the person that does the passing hold on with a very aggressive, I'm sure, Chris Fowler searching for a victory this season?
It's very early to tell, Arjuna, because, well, you can never know how the strategy plays out with this type of race, but it all comes down in part to how good of a restart can the person second or even in third place get themselves to launch. Because if you nail the restart well enough, then get the draft down the back straightaway through the dog leg and try and send up the pass into turn 3, you can make it work. But the problem is, you need to nail the restart. So it's really dictated towards, especially later on in this race, whoever's in control of the field in the race lead, can they properly pull away and get themselves a bit of a distance from the rest of the pack to be able to get away from everyone else and take advantage of the clean air.
And with no in-car tools, I just wonder, Justin, if that's maybe going to cause more issues later in this race when you're dealing with all of that dirty air in front of you. You can't, roll up on the ARB. You can't add some weight jacker to keep the car rotating nicely through the corner. You said it's all about the 2 hands and the 2 feet. Let's see how the drivers cope today.
And so far, for the most part, drivers have been doing a very good job on that. It's just been the matter of just finite lines of inches in some of these cases for the caution flags so far. right now we'll have to see if we can get a longer run here built up for some of these competitors. Already 156 to go.
And I think we're going to take one more look at the incident that brought out the caution. Here it is through turn 1, but static angle doesn't give us the best of look. We'll get the aftermath here as ball up into the outside wall. Fortunate that Malone doesn't come across the scene of the accident once more, Justin. Now let's see if we can maybe ride on board with the 69 as well.
Yeah, you can see Trevor Malone, of course, had to get some of the repairs done from that first caution flag. Had to get a new front wing and was already committed to the outside at the time of the caution flag. Luckily, that time was able to time it up to where he didn't get into the car in front.
And so lights are off on the pace car, so for the third time today, he will peel his way down onto the safety of pit road. The question on the lips of many in the iRacing IndyCar community, what is the name of the pace car driver? What we do know is Barney the flagman has the green flag in his hands once more. Chris Fowler with a very good jump across the start-finish line as we get back underway in the ButtKicker Phoenix 175. Look at Malechka already putting pressure onto Van der Sant. Let's jump on board with the 91 as well, Justin. Down into turn number 3.
And keep an eye on if he can build up enough of a run to get towards a side-by-side move. Doesn't look like it, and at this point, just trying to utilize that second line, get a clean air pocket, try and get away from the dirty air at the very least. Now dial back in to go back single file here. Overall, a great launch once again from Chris Fowler.
Oh, it's getting feisty once more. This is too wide, too deep with Nick DeGroot, Matt Houston, Christopher, Paul Jenkins all involved. And I believe that's Mike Rigney as well in the 0-0. Contact made with Rigney. Almost gets forced into the outside wall. Bit of a hip check there from Paul Jenkins. They keep things green. Look at Barrett Rolfe trying to take advantage as well as Jason Galvin, who's made contact with Jenkins. And we've got our third caution of the day. It's a big one down the back straightaway.
And a big one that collects plenty of drivers. Wow. And Jenkins just does not have any luck this season, it seems.
What was he saying in the Discord before this, Justin? He just wants to get through one of these races without being hit. Well, doesn't seem like that's going to change here today. Straight to the RaceSpottv replay. I think series organizer George Anzaldo got involved as well. We'll take a look with his onboard look and go super slow-mo here, Justin, and take a look at Anzaldo's look at the view.
And just nowhere to go for the most part. Gets hit from behind in the check of effect, essentially caused in part by 3 wide into the dog leg, which is not going to work. Of course, you cannot cut below the yellow line here for that dog leg, and you can see that it ended up factoring a little bit where Galvin wanted to make the move, realized the mistake at the last moment, tried to back it off, I believe, but it was too late to back it off completely for Jenkins to clear by.
And I think he forgot as well, Justin, that you can't cut below the yellow line, so maybe Galvin a bit too aggressive and optimistic there. And like you said, did, I think, recognize that he was a bit late. Let's take a look at the onboard from Nunez's front wing here, Justin, because he doesn't really get much time. We'll watch this one in real time. He doesn't... Ooh. Any indication there? No indication for Nunez, who's poor luck in not just the Speedway Series, but the IndyCar Series as well. Will continue.
Yeah, the last time he raced at Phoenix in a Lionheart sanctioned race, ended up losing his rear wing, remember. And that time, looked like everything was going to be okay, but then Joe Branch and Craig Forsyth both come flying in. I believe Forsyth actually made contact with them.
Tell you what, pit road not as busy as I thought it might be. Take a look at this with Joe Branch just in front. That's the yellow and red car. He is trying to slow down. Just about gets through. Forsyth as well. Let's take one more look, Justin, but with those onboard angles.
Yeah, and you can see he is already full on into the gas, then sees the pileup start to form, chooses a line, and thinks, okay. Doesn't realize Nunez is going to be there and nearly ends up clobbering the whole right side of his car. Just a massive, massive incident, and that's exactly what drivers feared, was attrition coming into play just like that.
And Jason Boss in the YouTube chat rightfully points out, here comes, well, series organizer George Anzaldo back into the broadcast viewing room, Justin, rather than out there on track competing. It's not been easy for him either. So many names that you could talk about, the bad start to the season that they've had. It's curious how Race Control is going to take a look at all of these incidents after the fact, and if we might see some more penalties next time out, just a week from now.
Yeah, they've come into play for some of the drivers throughout the season in terms of how they can attack the racetrack and how qualifying can fare out for some. But on the bright side, I believe Anzaldo actually stayed on the racetrack, so there is that. But 24 seconds of damage repair means had to change the wings on his number 6 machine. So for a lot of the drivers involved there, they got away with some luck, able to come away with just front and rear wing changes. But for our drivers like Jenkins and a couple others, their side pods completely crushed into the back of the field.
Lights are off on the pace car, ticking lap 27 out of 175. I saw a suggestion that pace car driver's name is Nate. Is there something I'm not aware of here, Justin? And is Nate the official driver of the pace car here?
I'm not quite sure. I've seen polls of people wanting to come up with the name, so there's that.
Well, I tell you what, he's back down on pit road for now. Barney's got the green flag out here in the ButtKicker Phoenix 175. Third caution on the day has flown. Let's see if with several cars getting collected in that one, 33 starters now whittled down to just 27 runners on track. They are all still on the lead lap as well. Down into turn 3, it's Tony Schowen, third place in the championship, putting pressure on the rookie Malechka in front of him. Over-under attempted by Ohio native in the 31 car, Justin. For the first time on this restart, the cars at the front seem to be able to get something going as the yellow flag waves in very short succession, and it's Paul Jenkins who's going, unfortunately, for the ride of his lifetime.
Well, when it rains, it pours, I guess. When it comes to Jenkins' luck, ends up getting sideways off the corner, and wow.
Take a look at the onboard with the 35 car. And up into the wall. He'll be glad he doesn't have the VR goggles on there, I'm sure. Give that a perfect 10 on the landing, Justin. He ends up on all 4 wheels once more.
I don't think he's thinking about that. I think he's thinking about how that is definitely a race ender for sure. And for the iracing racing machine, it's just been that type of a season as we talked about. So a quick caution flag, and just like that, already 7 drivers either in the garage area or getting damage repair done.
Diolita has come down onto pit road this time around, Justin. 12th on back have. Joe Branch, the first of the cars that has pitted. Here comes Christopher, so there are a couple coming down onto the lane. I think Nick DeGroot as well. Stouffer might have dummied him into coming down onto pit road, in fact. So the 89 machine will cycle to the tail end of the field.
Going to be definitely costly for the track position, but we are inside the projected window for first stops, technically, by a couple laps. Now, keep in mind, we talked about this. We expect about 50 laps on the gas. Drivers are expected to make it as early as 49 laps, green flag running specifically. But all these caution flags have definitely jumbled up some of the field because you have Joe Branch, Matt Taylor, Craig Forsythe, Trevor Malone, Miguel Hagstrom, and Dean Mall, who have all been involved in some type of trouble at one point for some of those competitors, all having a strategy where they came in during the second caution flag. Then you have the drivers involved with the caution flag after that who came in, like Rigney, like Shion, like Kresge, Enzoldo, Brooks, who are all on various top-offs. And now you have drivers like DeGroot and Galvin who are playing the long game and potentially hoping that, okay, if there's a quick caution flag or something, or enough of a run which brings in everyone in, guess what? That cycles them to the front. So it's becoming a conveyor belt of strategy.
Question I have is, are we going to get a green flag run here tonight, or are we trending towards a caution interrupted race? Because if that's the kind of race that we get, Justin, it could do one of two things. The first race that ends under caution here in IndyCar competition, or it could also mean, just like we saw in the first couple of rounds, strategy cycles out for a green flag run to the end.
Yeah, it's been very big for a lot of these races in the Speedway Series in particular this year, where you have attrition build up, or you end up having an early caution flag, and the first couple races, the mile and a half, came into play when it comes to fuel, remember, with it being at the edge of the fuel window, with drivers having to heavily save. I've seen drivers try and clutch and coast these machines before at a track such as this, where that's not an easy thing to do, obviously. So it's to where you never know when you're going to get the long run. That's the point, Arjuna, where it's a gamble, but if you have it pay off, then guess what? You're the one celebrating. If it doesn't, then you lose all your track position.
Lights back off on the pace car, so working lap 29. Fourth caution on the day. It's still Fowler, Van de Sant, and Malechka 1, 2, 3. It has been like that basically since lap 3 of the race. Tony Shalwin in fourth with Alexis Newsom up 3 into fifth. Got Matt Houston, Christopher Barrett, Rolf, Alex Guyon, and Brian Greenlee rounding out the top 10 competitors. Back to the green flag action it will be this time around. I believe Luis Gonzalez Nunez has been trying to nurse some repairs to that car. He's reset back down onto pit road. Might be day done then for the 14 once more. But at the front of the field, green flag flies, and Chris Fowler brings us back to the action at the ButtKicker Phoenix 175. It's once more Barrett Rolf peeking to the inside here, Justin. He seems to have figured out these race restarts. He gets on past Christopher.
He's definitely nailing these race starts and then some for today. It's just a matter, though, of trying to defend, because all these drivers are ready to try and pounce. We've seen that bottom line has been really good on some of these restarts, but that top line, if you execute well, can be good to defend. Ralph, remember, was lucky, just barely avoided that big incident from before.
He's able to slip on past and defend for now. Behind these two, it's Greenlee and Joe Branch duking it out. And I think at one point, Alex Guyon, who's up an incredible 20 positions on the day so far, started at the very tail end of the field. A caution flies once more here today. It's Jason Galvin, unfortunately, hometown driver, and he's straight down onto pit road as well, Justin. This is becoming very much a caution-interrupted race, and straight back to the RaceSpot.tv replay we go.
I think the damage may have something to do with this a little bit. We're just running to the corner, then similar to Jenkins, snaps it around. I'm wondering if the side pod damage is ending up affecting the downforce levels for these drivers, and to the point where it's now affecting their ability to exit off turn 4.
So you take a look there, Galvin will be disappointed not to be able to win 2 races at home here today, but at least then it might be a bit of misery saved for him, because if there was damage, Justin, it was only going to go one way from there.
Yeah, there was damage on the right side pod in particular that was affecting him potentially there, and now that brings our total of drivers already up to 8 as strategy opening up.
Van de Sant stays out, but the race leader comes down. He's followed in by Malechka, who's also followed in by the likes of Newsom, Rolf, Stouffer, and company. Staying out then, we've got 3 cars, Van de Sant, Schauen, and Houston. So Justin, well, we were just about, I think, to take a commercial break here. That's usually what that music indicates, but instead, we've got cycles in pit road.
And I was expecting this to come into play, and this is the conveyor belt effect I was talking about. Now this puts Joe Branch into the net hit strategist window right now. So it's going to be where Joe Branch has a big opportunity to gain a lot of positions. Plus 15, and Matt Taylor in particular. Remember, terrible qualifying performance, Arjuna, is now in a great spot here. Plus 25 on the race.
The Dallara DW12s once more pacing around at the pedestrian 80 kilometers an hour, like you can see up there, 25 positions gained. And let's cycle through then Justin, the cars that have been the big winner in terms of the strategy here. Of course, it's still got a very long way to play out, but Forsyth, he's up 17. You've got Malone up 14. Hagstrom, not double digits, but still 9 is very respectable. There you find Dean Moll, still out there on track after being involved in, what was it, our second caution of the day with Craig Forsyth. He's 11 places up, Justin, still in the top 10.
Yeah, that car looks like it's okay. It's just a matter of, can it stay up there is what I'm curious about, because Doesn't have the side pod damage that we've seen that's hampered a lot of drivers, and has been able to get the new rear wing in particular back on the race car. So this is a great job for Dean Mullet to be able to hold on at the moment. And that's the key word, at the moment. So I'm very curious on how this is all going to play out now, and especially now with Van der Sant, Schauwen, and Matt Houston, and all rolling the dice and saying, you know what? We're hoping for more caution flags here.
Do they come down this time? Does Van der Sant blink after leading a lap? No, he does not. This will be very interesting. Not sure how much fuel these cars are able to save, Justin, but they're working lap 40 on the stint right now. I'm trying to do some quick math in my head. They may only have done about 10 green flag laps at this point in time.
Give or take. It's somewhere, I think, more towards maybe the 15 range, because we did start off, remember, with a decent run of about 7 laps. So we've had on average about 7 to 8 laps per run, give or take. So, but for Van der Sant, I think it's just trying to get clean air and see, okay, what can I do here now, and see if he can pounce.
I think what we're going to do on this race restart is go on board with some of the cars. Listen in to the sights and sounds here at the Phoenix Raceway. At the front now, no longer Chris Fowler, your pole position sitter. He finds himself all the way down in 13th position. It's now Alexander Van der Sant. What can he do from the front as we get back to the green flag action in the ButtKicker Phoenix 175? So Matt Taylor gets on past Joe Branch. So these are cars, Justin, squabbling on fresh tires. They are holding each other up as they try and close on the top 3 contenders.
That can be frustrating as a driver, absolutely, to be able to have these types of scraps. But remember, Joe Branch was one of the drivers who basically just about got involved in that big one, and he seems to be struggling right now. Having to let by cars, in fact, just about, or at the very least is trying to, at the very least, give as much space as possible. So, for a lot of these air drivers on the air strategies, though, they're cutting through the field and fairly quickly, some of them.
I think that's Hagstrom who's going to fall down into 14th position right now. We're taking a look at these wide-angle shots. Gives you an incredible perspective of the speed. These cars are in excess of 280 kilometers an hour. That's the pole sitter, Chris Fowler. Around and over, Justin, through turn number 4. Caution flies very quickly. I'm not sure if there was contact or if that was a self-inflicted mistake.
Another big incident in this race. Man, oh man, let's take a look at this one as Fowler was running right against the apron. Might have just clipped a little bit too much of those left side tires against the apron. Drivers were talking about that before today's race. And you'll see for the onboard. Gets right underneath the yellow line. Bye-bye race car.
And you know who else loses out here, Justin? It's not just the pole sitter who gets stranded on the pit wall as well. See if we can jump on board with Robert Malechka, race winner just 7 days ago. There you can see, in fact, Fowler does get below the yellow line, and Malechka, no time to respond, and into the wall.
And already 6 caution flags here, so we are trending towards the latter of the 2 points we talked about. If we were going to get towards what could be a photo finish type of race or what could be an attrition race, we've got an attrition style race. And now, as expected, pit stop strategy now coming into play, and everyone who tried to roll the dice having to come in right here.
And so the front 3 followed in by a number of other cars as well. I think Joe Branch, not sure if there's significant damage to the 28, but the yellow and red up on the jacks now as Dean Moll behind him comes in with Mike Rigney making his way into the box as well. We will try and cycle through the running order right now. It's Matt Taylor at the front of the field, Justin. Craig Forsyth in second. Trevor Malone in third. All three of these cars are up double-digit positions on the day. Your race leader, 29 positions gained. He started all the way back on the edge of the top 30.
Again, very impressive from Taylor, able to nail the strategy for now is the big key part. And right now it's just a matter of staying out as long as you can, because you never know if we'll get a lone run once more. Again, that's the challenge of strategizing for a race such as this, where it's stop and start, where you can get this attrition builds up, but usually towards the middle of the race in particular is where you really get the longer runs, Arjuna, when it trends this way. So in other words, for some of these drivers up at the front, they're already 31 laps into their stints. It's the matter of how long can they now stay out after being able to save after all these pace laps since their initial pit stops. And don't forget, Malone already had to change the front wing in this race. It's been an incredible job for him to get himself back in this position.
6 cautions in 46 laps. I'm not trying to sound like a Debbie Downer up here in the commentary booth, Justin, but to be quite frank, I think the drivers need to get a bit of a talking to from race control right now and just need to be reminded, even though we have seen some single car incidents that have brought out the caution as well, we just need a bit more sense from the drivers, because otherwise we're going to be in this kind of perpetual state of caution for the next, 125 laps here.
Yeah, we've already gone into where we have about 10 or so cars in the garage area. Drivers need to remember that it's a 175 lap race. A lot can happen. There's a lot of opportunities for drivers to pounce for passes. There's a lot of opportunities for drivers to be able to cut their way through the field. But if you are overly aggressive or make too many mistakes trying to push too hard early on in the race, you'll lose your opportunity to be able to move your way to the field later on. You'll lose your opportunity to be there for the checker flag. So it's something that everyone has to be able to think about as competitors in all situations, Arjuna, not just in this type of race. And we've seen attrition be the name of the game so far here at Phoenix.
Will we get a green flag run? That is the question that I think everybody wants the answer to be yes here. It will be Taylor from Forsyth from Trevor Malone at the front of your field. Barney, the flagman, has the green flag in his hands once more. The ButtKicker Phoenix 175 has its 6th caution of the day come to an end, and it's single file, much more orderly down in towards turn number 1. Looked like Alexander Van der Sant got the best launch of them all. They're stacking up behind Nick de Groot right now. Let's jump on board for the number 89 car, Justin.
De Groot already having to play a bit of defense, and that's a teammate, Alexis Newsom, having a very solid day. A very quiet day, but a solid day. Keeping the car clean, but don't forget, drivers like Barrett Rolfe, this is the type of race that he's been able to try and execute on. Look at this run from Barrett.
He's finding momentum, gets checked up behind Newsom running that outside line. Can he sweep around Nick de Groot? And George Anzaldo might try and follow him as well. They are getting racy for 5th on back, Justin. The top 4, 1.4 seconds clear.
Half a second lost alone from all that scrapping, and now they need to sort themselves out, because I wouldn't be surprised if a couple drivers are saying to themselves, man, we need to work together a little bit to try and get ourselves there. If they continue to scrap like this, then we're going to see little packs form up and the field really break apart from one another compared to early on where it was a single file train all the way back to, what was it, 25th, Arjuna? It's just turned into a completely different type of race with all the caution flags really turning up some of the urgency before things calm down. As near contact there.
Yeah, they're getting even racier, if anything, if you ask me now, knowing that they can't afford to lose too much time. There's Shawan throwing a move to the inside of George Anzaldo, has slipped down into 11th position. Freight train down on the inside line. Jump on board with the Adrenaline Motorsports driver of Joe Branch. He at one point was up in the field, Justin, now tries to work some fresh tires and get some moves done as well.
Remember, Branch was struggling a little bit before and seems to be much better now that he's on the fresher tires. Thinking about an opportunity here. The outside seems to be the momentum-based way. Just nowhere for him to take the run completely. It's Matt Houston right in front of him.
And you can see it's Van der Sant who will try and use the inside there. Going to get almost wheel to wheel there, but momentum on the side of Branch. He's up into the 13th position for now, and now Van der Sant defends from Dean Moll around the outside. That outside line, Justin, you said it right from the start of the race. If drivers want to make passes, they need to find speed up on the outside line.
It's been the trends, and it's showing right now where that top line has started to really rubber its way in. But up towards the front, things are getting interesting. Taylor and Forsyth are running up to half a second, or rather half a tenth to a tenth of a second quicker than much of the field. But these are the drivers that are going to have to pit sooner, hoping for another caution to equalize things out on their strategy.
Gaps are forming, and for Alexis Newsom, Barrett Rolfe, they are trying to hunt down the race leaders, but the margin that they're closing is hundredths, not tenths of a second. And they find themselves 2.6 seconds adrift from Matt Taylor. Is that lap traffic in front of Taylor as well, Justin? Yes, it is. It's the 54 machine. So lap traffic, we've been so caution interrupted that we haven't even had to think about yet. That's the Muscle Man down in 22nd position.
With side pod damage, that's why he's currently being affected to 21.7s compared to the 20.1s being turned in. Not too much of a factor for the race leader. Is going to let them on by, it looks like there, but things have calmed down for now is the key word, it seems. As one car just hit the wall, Brian Greenlee just destroyed his right side.
We stay under green, though, by some miracle, Justin. He's going to try and nurse that car down onto pit road. He's not going to be able to make his way down this time around. He's going to have to limp around for one more mile.
And just washed up the racetrack and washed into the wall once again, trying to let by these drivers. It's so easy to end up pushing too hard on the corner exit with the aero wash and end up slamming into the safer barrier. That's exactly what Greenlee did, and now Greenlee going to have to make a pit stop. See, it would be the, coming out of turn 2, believe, would be the contact for him.
Well, we're jumping out of turn 4 right now with the 38, so in the LPM thumbs up, Dallara DW12. Let's see what happens here. All the way down to the inside there, washing up the track, and hard into the outside wall, Justin. You can see immediately the steering was damaged. Greenlee down on pit road.
Yeah, significant side pod damage as well. Tilt to the right front tire out with the toe. And now, add an air driver to the list of competitors involved in damage, and that traffic is now starting to play a little bit into some of these battles.
Christopher sends around Dean Moll. Caution will fly once more, Justin, and they were getting racy. I felt that might have been inevitable.
Yeah, I think that opportunity to pass came with the Muscleman trying to let drivers by, and Dean Moll lost a bit of momentum in the dog leg. That was Christopher, though, that got a bit of a run right behind, and around Dean Moll goes for the second time this race.
Jump on board with Stouffer here, and you're right, it was the momentum that the Muscle Man really affected this move, and I don't know if Stouffer necessarily expected Moll to be slightly slow through the entry of the corner. There's minimal damage to the front wing on the 13 machine, Justin, but he might be looking at race control, coming and asking him to report to the driver's room at the conclusion of this race.
Just a tough break there once more. Christopher now also with the demolished front wing. And now it gets really interesting on strategy, because with the trends of the race, that was one of our longest runs of the race, I believe there. Do you roll the dice? The answer is yes for some.
So who's that stays out? That's Newsom, as well as Barrett Rolfe and Nick DeGroot. So two of the factory back cars, the only two of them still in the race, trying to cycle out to the front on strategy. Malone goes up on the jacks. Forsyth goes up on the jacks as well. And in the race off of pit road, who's going to be the first out on the fresh rubber? It will still be Taylor for Team Race First, Justin. Forsyth and Malone net second and third.
Looks like the call worked out for Taylor, but the reason I think some of the drivers here might be trying to stay out here is they might not think that they will be able to make it on gas if they came in this time, and then you have the cautions be able to save, because right now, that might be the gamble for some of these other competitors. Top off on fuel, get yourself some fresh tires, and if you get enough caution flags, you may be able to make it to about 50 laps to go to make it towards the end. It's the matter, though, of does this race stay that trend? I'm not quite sure, especially with how things have been playing out.
I mean, let's just be honest here, Justin. I'm trying not to be so negative, but the first thing I learned when I worked with Radio Show Limited is sometimes you just have to call things as they are. We're down to 20 cars still out there on track. If we continue at the rate that we're going, and not really even halfway through this race, we may only be looking at maybe, 15 cars really fighting on the lead lap, and that might really mean, like you say, we get those green flag runs come the conclusion of this race.
Exactly, and that's usually just what can happen at these types of races when you're down to this many cars. And it's the matter, though, of if we get a good restart here, will the drivers think about what's going on and keep the race calmer? Or will they try and fight like a carrot on the stick once again? As hard as possible. As racers, you try and race as hard as possible, yes, but at the same time you have to think, okay, what's going to happen in this circumstance if we push, especially knowing the trends of this race as we get the one-to-go signal?
It will be lap 70 when we get back to the action, so about 106 laps, roughly counting. 106 miles still left to go. How many minutes have we been racing, Justin? Because I really do think we spend, if not as much time in terms of laps under caution as we have under green flag conditions, it may be even slightly more in terms of caution interruptions.
If my estimate's right, including the warm-up in terms of the pace lap, I should say, to start off the race, we're approaching the 45-minute mark to answer that question, believe Arjuna. And as a driver, you have to try and keep yourself loose in this type of situation. Try and keep yourself entertained. Because if you let frustration build, the frustration is then let out on the racetrack, and then you see what happens.
The other thing, Justin, is it's almost 9 p.m. here on the west coast of the USA. It is a late night for some of these competitors. Green flag flies once more at the front. Alexis Newsom, Barrett Rolfe, and Nick DeGroot all trying something different on the strategy. There is a very interesting picture that we will try and paint for you in just a moment's time once we get a couple of these green flag laps under our belt. But Justin, you've got Newsom and Rolfe on one strategy. You've got Anzaldo and I believe it's Schowen behind. DeGroot and Anzaldo on another strategy. Schowen, Houston, and Van der Sant on a third strategy. And then we saw everyone else come down onto pit road that last caution around.
Can't tell if we're trying to paint inside the lines in terms of picture-in-picture, in terms of by numbers, rather, or a Picasso. It's been that type of a race with how the layers upon layers upon layers of an onion have been breaking down for tonight. Right? But now it's the gambles of will we get towards that point where the gambles pay off. They're already getting pretty close in some of these battles already, and one driver shooting up the racetrack.
That was Chris Stouffer aggressively defending in front. Look at Malone, defends from Guyon to the inside with Rigney in front. At left side of the screen, that's the strategy picture we were talking about, Justin. 35 laps on the stint for Newsom and Rolfe. You can see DeGroot and Anzaldo in their own little bubble with 5th, 6th, and 7th squabbling by themselves as well. This is, by the way, Malone and Guyon on the edge of the top 10. Taylor is about 0.6 of a second in front. So all of the side-by-side action, for the first time, is not costing these cars too much time.
I think that's just partly how things are playing out in terms of the dirty air effect in front, but that's going to continue to stretch ahead if they keep this up side by side. After all, they already lost themselves about a few tenths before, and I think Guyon just realized, okay, it's not going to work. If I don't get back up there, Joe Branch might have an opportunity. So now he's going to have to go in the defensive mode, at the very least, reset as these drivers pick up the draft down the straightaways, the cars in front.
And if my timing screen is not telling me any lies here, Justin, which sometimes it has been doing in recent occasions, I only think we got 19 cars still out there and circulating out of the 33 starters, and they're all on the lead lap right now. So still no lap traffic really to speak of. Might be something we think about if we continue on this green flag run.
Yeah, and at least in the lesser amount of cars means more gaps potentially between said traffic. It's not going to be where you reach a full cluster potentially, or you have a grouping of 4 or 5 together potentially. It's going to be more spread apart, possibly towards the back end of the pack. Most of the drivers are staying within the train, except for Jeff Murray, who has lost the draft. Close Christopher Kresge, who is falling off the back end of the top 17. Everyone else is amongst this choo-choo train.
And I think for now, the choo-choo train just needs to continue rolling, Justin, and we need to get some green flag action under the belt. I always think in a new series like this, there's nervousness, there's those jitters that you get from being unsure as to what the series holds for you, Justin, and sometimes you do get some more incidents at the start while people figure out the limits and understand how different people will race them. But we are working round 6 now of this championship. Some of this driving is a bit over-aggressive given what we've seen in some of the other series as well. We've also seen, by contrast, I think back to the incredible action we saw in the season opener, Justin. That was some really good wheel-to-wheel action.
Yeah, it was incredible back then, but I think partly what was factoring the most about all this is just the hands and feet part, where drivers were expecting a potential brawl, as talked about in some of the fans in terms of potential battles because of this car's abilities to be able to race here at Phoenix. It entertains for a reason. But now we see that it all came to fruition in terms of how things scrapped together. Now drivers like Van der Sant just trying to scrap their way on by Matt Houston, clipped the apron last time by, lost a ton of momentum and checked things up. Matt Taylor with a chance to try and pounce as the net strategy gainer. Keep in mind that if we do get a run, that most of these drivers might be into a fuel situation towards the end of this race where it could get very chaotic.
Do the math backward, right, Justin? 50 lap stint, so 125. That's the magic number where if you can get to that point and pit after that, you will be good. And so for someone like De Groot and Anzaldo, who are tickling lap 50 already in terms of being out there on track, they are in the danger zone. If you're anyone who came down in that most recent caution, I think you are probably in the most optimal position. So the top 7 will have to hope that they don't get caught out by the strategy here.
Yeah, that's the main thing, and that's why I think they tried to roll the gamble. They were hoping that the trend was going to continue, that you had attrition keep on up. And high risk, high reward. You have that happen, you likely see majority of the field come on in, and you have things equalize out into one stopper to the end. Now, we're in a spot, too, where even the drivers who topped off are in a spot where it's going to be a splash and dash towards the end if it keeps on going, if you go backwards, by about 10 laps to go, give or take. So it's going to be tight for all these drivers across the field, especially with these closing stages. You may see differences of 30, 40 laps in a green or June.
Justin, did you see what we saw just coming out of turn 4 that last time around? Because I'm a little bit in disbelief as to the confidence that Christopher has in that car. Slight damage we saw earlier around the outside of Trevor Malone, like there wasn't even a car there. That car looking fixed up once more and might still have a top 10 finish on the cards here.
New wing on that car and newfound confidence with the speed, absolutely. Just with the grip, I think, in part. Just taking advantage of some of the other drivers who are on a slight differential on strategy at the moment because the timing had a couple of the caution flags. But to get to the point, basically, when it comes to Stouffer, I think he just found the right clean air pocket at the right time, with Malone having to check up to make sure he left some space just in case. And now has to try and claw his way up to the grouping that includes these drivers.
So it is now getting more and more orderly. After 7 cautions in the opening 64 laps, we are working lap 90 of 175. Pit stops will be imminent for the top 4 runners: Alexis Newsom, Barrett Rolfe, Nick De Groot, and George Anzaldo. We're riding on board with Matt Taylor, 2nd place in the Rookie Championship. It's been an interesting run so far for him, as I believe, Justin, the first of the cars down onto pit road.
It's Nick De Groot who opens up that window of drivers who rolled the strategy dice at the front of the field. And the tough part's going to be now Nick De Groot needs this race to have a long run, because he's going to lose a lap here, and we've seen so many races go bust here at Phoenix because of drivers having to pit under green, because it's such a big gamble drivers have talked about.
There goes his new teammate, Alexis Newsom, looking for her third victory on the season, but look behind. Barrett Rolfe in the rearview mirrors. Ascari Autosport driver has been on the up and up this season. It looked at one point as though he might be on the cards for a victory a week ago. As Anzaldo down onto the pit road this time around, expect Newsom, expect Rolfe, Justin, in 5 laps, I would think.
And Anzaldo nearly spun it up the racetrack, in fact, Arjuna, coming into the pit lane, slipped, trying to carry a ton of speed on the apron. That's going to cost him at least 3 to 5 seconds. Let's take a look at what happened here a little bit further along, where tried to basically go as low as can to carry speed.
And the yellow flag is out as we are in the middle of the pit stop strategy. That will hurt the likes of Anzaldo and De Groot no end. And I tell you what, Justin, let's go straight to pick up the incident that's happened. It's Joe Branch, Matt Wagner, Christopher Kresge, and Jeff Seong. So 4 different cars getting mixed up in this one out of turn number 4. Joe Branch slightly on the apron there, already loose, and I wonder if he comes up the track as well.
Stops in the middle of the track. Whoa. What a dodging moment for that car we just seen. Can't tell who that was. I think that might have been maybe Rigney. But you can see just nowhere for some of these drivers to go, having to lock it up. And when you lock it up, it immediately swings around if you hit it too quickly on the brakes.
I believe Jeff Seong might have to talk to race control about this Arca brakes moment, because you can see, unsure about whether he can get on the brakes or get on the throttle. A bit of indecision. Jeff Seong in the white car gets mixed up in that one, and Kresge up on his roof. Caution flies for the 8th time today, Justin, and guess what? Pit road, it's going to be busy. Everyone down onto the lane.
I think Matt Taylor is now rolling the strategy dice, since now would be about 50 to go when he can stretch it to at this point. But everyone else, it's still a one-stopper regardless of how you slice it. About 30 to go is now where these drivers will have to come in for sure. And now, in about 20 or 30 laps or so, that's where it gets really interesting on how things dice it in some so well. And look at this race off the pit lane.
Newsom will hold on, but loses it by herself. Oh my word. Drama here in Phoenix, Justin. I'm not sure what the regulations state now. Newsom might restart in 8th position.
I'm not quite sure how this is going to fare out, and Newsom might get the spots back. I'm not quite sure, because they were already past the commitment cone. Let's take a look. As I've seen several drivers, as soon as they pass that commitment cone, when they gas it up, it ends up lighting up the back tires, and that's exactly what happened there.
Let's take a couple of looks at this if we can. First, up on the jacks for Newsom. Waiting for the signal to drop and go. Straight away she rolls. And watch here, listen to the engine. Spike of power, nothing she could do to hold on. Van der Sant squeaks on through. Let's take a look at his onboard as well. Second pit box for the 97 car. And, well, he squeezes all the way to the wall, Justin. He'll be very glad at how that one has played out.
As drivers have talked about, very slippery on that pit lane. It is a very tough pit exit here at this racetrack, especially to try and make sure you don't light up the tires. Seen one driver spin around several times and practicing just pit exits alone to make sure they executed well here. But now, it gets really intriguing for Taylor, because Taylor essentially needs this race to go to about 49 to go, and then open up the floodgates, essentially, because that would essentially get you to the end of on the fuel.
Lights are off on the pace car, so back to the action on lap 99 out of 175. It has been a caution-interrupted race, but the most recent one has cycled through strategy. And the interesting part here, Justin, it's only one car on this alternate strategy right now. How's it going to play out for Matt Taylor? Only he will know. He might be in a good position, given that what you just said, drivers will have to come down in about 50 laps time with 30 to go. He might be able to extend this to do it on one stop as well.
I think so. It's just a matter of, can he keep the track position, and how do things play out? Because if he gets to caution right afterwards once more, you have the same situation as the group, where you're essentially pinned a lap down right behind the leader.
That's going to make things interesting. And Zaldo as well. That's in between Taylor and Newsom. So 1.1 seconds at the line between first and second. Here comes Barrett Rolfe searching for that elusive victory, Justin. He's up into net first position.
And this is going to be the type of night Barrett Rolfe, I think, will remember, because he's had everything go luck-wise towards his direction. Some of the strategy calls, as well as the fact he was able to dice his way to the big one, and now has got himself in front of Newsom already with another great restart. Newsom already having a shove with Tony Shalwin, and this is exactly what Rolfe needs to be able to get some distance now in a couple of the cars.
Van der Sant and Stouffer also squabbling as over under 97 tries to work to the inside of turn number 1. I think Indiana's own will be able to defend the move, and indeed cuts off the charge from Van der Sant. Van der Sant now looks in his rearview mirrors at Mike Rigney once more, jumping on board with Barrett Rolfe. Look at the train of cars in between him and the race leader, Justin. They are getting racy with Taylor out front.
Yeah, De Groot wants his lap back and then some right now, and that's going to be frustrating for Taylor. You don't blame the group for trying this, but at the same time, this is going to potentially lose Taylor a lot of time, as already lost 3 to 2/10 that lap by to some of the drivers trying to close in, as already Rolfe is there.
What does Anzaldo do? He holds his line, does I think the only thing he can for now, which is stay where he is, and that Rolfe find a way past him. And Zaldo is actually looking for a move past Nick De Groot, Justin. This is not what Barrett Rolfe wants to see in front of him.
If anything, it could have been much worse. Nick De Groot had to lift a ton there that set up that opportunity for Anzaldo to make sure he didn't slam into the blue barrier. And now, Rolfe is going to be checked right up into the dirty air. Already 0.8 of a second, the gap between first and second, with dirty air from Anzaldo to factor in.
Right off the rear wing of the number 6 machine. Does Newsom try anything here? We are into the last 70 laps now. Dirty air a factor for both of them. Newsom avoids getting up into the outside wall, but more and more time, Justin, is being lost to the race leader.
2/10 this time, and Rolfe has got to be frustrated now to where it's going to be tricky to be able to properly get on by. I think right now just needs to be able to back up the corners, just wait for an opportunity to pounce. If he can get a clean air pocket, he's in a good spot. Anzaldo clipped the apron in 1 and 2 that time by. Might be able to try and build up some momentum in the next couple laps.
Jump on board with the HyperX onboard and Chris Stouffer as he tries to duel with Taylor's teammate Matt Houston. This is for 5th position with some dirty air in front of them as well. Stouffer settles into line for now, but looks back to the inside as we work in towards turn 3. And builds up the momentum as Houston's going to come up the track there. Stouffer has to get out of the throttle very slightly. Over under going to be attempted down into turn 1, Justin. Not going to be enough, though, for the 13 machine.
Yeah, just didn't get into the proper position to be able to send it properly to the inside. That top line has been great for defending all night. By the way, the 33 of Rolfe was able to get by Anzaldo, and that is huge. Was able to do it on the bottom, in fact. They nearly made tire-to-tire contact in the process, but this is exactly what Rolfe needed to be able to break away from the rest of the pack.
Newsom needs to do the same as well, and Anzaldo's going to make her life very simple. To the outside he pulls, and will he let the 2-time race winner through? Now has a look in his rearview mirrors for Newsom's teammate Nick De Groot. They will continue to duel out with the last car 1 lap down. 33 starters, Justin. We are down to 16 competitors, and it's just as racy as we started off the night earlier today.
And I don't think it's going to slow down now at this rate.
Oh, no, it's not. There's a caution that's about to come out, Justin. There's a car into the outside wall. I believe it's Matt Houston in the 66.
I think Chris Stouffer also was up in the wall, and some size there as Stouffer gets the left part of the rear wing, or front wing rather, into the back end of the 66. Bye-bye.
Similar incident, wouldn't you say, Justin, to what we saw with Stouffer before, and he goes rim riding around the wall, and oh, the Area 51 car goes for a ride as well. Take one more look at the replay if we can, and let's pick up the 51 car of Jim Brooks.
Yeah, I think almost looked like getting loose before then, and then Brooks clipped the apron watching that and actually got hit hard by a couple other cars. Wow.
Well, that explains that one, because I wasn't sure exactly what happened to a car that's been very steady here today. Taylor down onto pit road then, Justin, which we would expect, but he is now going to drop to the tail end of the field and have a lot of work to do to carve his way back to the front.
A few other drivers having to come in there, including Craig Forsyth. He was that blue car that ended up getting hard contact. Forsyth damaged the car to the point where his chassis is completely skewed. This has been an interesting race. This is going to be an interesting strategy on how things play out.
We are going to step aside then as the caution flies for the 9th time here in Phoenix, Arizona. Don't go anywhere. Continued coverage of the Lionheart Speedway Series is back after this.
Wreck avoidances.
Stay low. He's high, stay low.
Daring passes.
Outside. You're going to get it.
Silly jumps.
Oh my god, a drive-through.
The thrill of victory.
They're against the wall. Good win, Mark. Stay low.
And the occasional mishap.
My sim crashed.
This is the DMLC Racing Channel.
Back live on racespottv for round 6 coverage of the Lionheart Speedway Series. We are moments away from getting the green flag back in the air here from Phoenix, Arizona. It's the ButtKicker Phoenix 175 presented by Karnox, and it's Barrett Rolfe at the front of your field as the green flag back in the air. My name is Arjuna Kenkipati. Alongside for today's action is Justin Prince. It's been a caution-interrupted race, Justin. 9 on the day so far, but now let's see if we can go green to the end. Commentator's curse if I've ever said one myself there, Justin, because guess what? Nick DeGroot, George Anzaldo, 10th caution of the day. So we will take a look at the replay then in just a second here. Nick DeGroot, George Anzaldo, who had come down onto pit road just a few moments ago. Here we go, down in towards turn 1. This must have been right off the bat. And it's Jim Brooks in front that has had a small kind of an issue here. And we'll take a look at the replay once more. Justin, what do you see here? It's on the restart indeed. Not sure exactly what happens.
Jim Brooks is the one who goes around there and ends up collecting both the cars that were one lap down still in the race. And just a moment where just almost looked like carried too much speed, possibly just snapped it around here. That or already had side pod damage from the prior incident where we've talked about this a couple times, and this was a major factor where Galvin confirmed this after his incident, that if you have side pod damage, it affects the downforce levels, and in that case, unfortunately, it ends up collecting multiple cars.
And so now, the question, I think, in everyone's mind, Justin, is fuel. We are very, very close to reaching that magic number. 50 laps to go, and that would be, if we expected a green flag run to end this race, someone might be bold and come down, get a full tank of fuel, and try to get to the end from here.
I'm curious if anyone's going to think about it. At the very least, it doesn't look like it. Actually, we do have someone. Matt Taylor is saying, you know what, let's try it. Because what does he have to lose? He's at the back of the field. He's tried to be a gambling person tonight in terms of these strategies, and this may be one that could work out if it does indeed go that way.
And Justin said at the start of the show as well, it could be someone getting track position and making it work. Who's that car that's very much crabbing down pit road? That's Anzaldo. So clearly some significant damage to his car there, Justin, as he shuffles and slinks his way down into the box.
Yeah, that might be another wing change, or at the very least a significantly long pit stop, because that full front wing completely gone. We'll have to wait and see, especially with the damage to the actual front wing portion around where the number's at. So it may be a longer stop for Anzaldo at the very least, but talk about Barrett Rolfe. He's had everything go his way as talked about. Now it's the matter of, will it stay going his direction with how things have been playing out?
Look at the number of cars on pit road, Justin. A picture speaks 1,000 words. I don't know what more we need to say other than that. 33 starters. I think we might be down to just 13 cars still out there and circulating.
And Jeff Murray and Matt Wagner, I think, both are coming down to top off as well, but just incredible how this race has played out. De Groot, I think, is going to still be able to keep on running to be that 13th car and be the only driver one lap down. Everybody else is 2 or more down and essentially out of contention. It's been, well, how do I put this?
A bloodbath.
It's been, yes, that's the best way to put it, possibly.
I'm stealing the words from Alexander Van der Sant in the Lionheart community chat as well. So just stealing that line. I wish I could take credit. At the front, Barrett Rolfe once more gets the action underway in the ButtKicker Phoenix 175, hoping not to put the commentator's curse and get the caution flag out straight away. There goes the fresh tires from Matt Taylor, slipping on past Jim Brooks. And let's see what he can do from here, Justin. Fresh tires and in 9th position, working his way through the field.
And essentially, he needs a couple more caution flags to make sure he can save enough gas. So he needs the race to keep up the trends. But up at the front, side by side for the race lead.
And Newsom's on past. I wonder if there's some games being played here. With so few cars now, they can afford to fight side by side, Justin. There's no one who's going to scamper away. Tony Schowen in 3rd, trying to slip a move down the inside as well.
Schowen in one of his best positions to fight for the race lead. Van der Sant, remember, qualified up here. And I think Rolfe at this point may just decide, you know what? After that move, wait for the opportunity to build up momentum. There's the momentum right there to try and utilize the outside. Just can't build up enough of a run yet to get fully side by side yet.
At the line, it is still the 63. What a storyline it would be. 3rd victory and 3rd trip into the HyperX victory lane. But momentum on the side of the 33 car, Justin. And Ascari Autosports, Barrett Rolfe back into the race lead as the caution flag flies once more here today.
We're going to run out of cards at this point.
So it's, I think, the 3rd straight caution that's involved the 51 car here, Justin. And I mean, even if he parks it right now and finishes where he is, it's 21 positions gained. Might be that side pod damage once more. You can see car steps around on him and straight into the outside wall.
Yeah, I'm surprised he kept on going after the last incident. His car completely demolished, and now that may bring us down to 12 running. It still may be a decent points night yet for drivers like De Groot. If you can keep your car running But this may have just really helped Taylor in particular and may open up some floodgates of drivers trying to gamble here. Here we go. Or to make sure they can come towards the end.
I think this is their magic number, Justin. 52 laps to go. Everyone will come in. Taylor will cycle to the front then. As a result, who will win the battle on pit road then? Houston as well to cycle to the front, but he will owe us a pit stop. Not sure if he will come down the next time around. Watch now for Barrett Rolfe, Alexis Newsom. This is the most important stop of the race. It has been one that they've had to make a number of trips down onto the safety of pit lane for the final time. What can they do? The big blue, number 63 up on the jacks. Rolfe rolls off in front, Justin. Newsom unable to make a move there.
1, 2, 3, 4 staying the same off the pit lane as nicely executed though. And I think, again, these are teammates, by the way. They're now 1-2 for Matt Houston. He definitely can't stretch it unless there's a lot of caution flags at this point. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him duck down because essentially we're down to 11 cars on the lead lap. What do you got to lose to try and get yourself some points?
11 cars on the lead lap, 11 cautions on the day as well. The worrying thing, Justin, is 7 days from now we head to another short track, Gateway, the Worldwide Technology Raceway as it's known now in the real world. That is, if you ask me, an even bigger challenge than this one was. We didn't see this level of commotion at the last short track that we went to, so I'm a bit intrigued at how this one has gone, and in 7 days' time, all of these drivers will do it once more.
It's going to be a challenging race because it's where so many times I've seen Arjuna drivers snap loose coming off of turn 2 at that racetrack. It's been incredible because it's a much more cambered corner, tighter corner, more banking in said corner, and drivers in turn a lot of times have the tendency to snap out of turn 2. 3 and 4, much more flatter. Allows the opportunity for potential shifting and whatnot. So it's going to be a track where you have two different types of ways to race around the track, but also plenty of space in some areas to work with, particularly in 3 and 4 with it being flatter. I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of battling. Track position still going to be very vital, but still it's going to really test the ability of drivers to say, can you hold on to this race car in particular and to make sure you don't slide and get yourself collected into the back straightaway of doom.
Houston down onto pit road, so I think getting the point for leading a lap. Will cycle to the back now, knowing he is safe till the end. Justin, the last time we had this many cautions in a Lionheart race at Phoenix was both in season 6 and 7 when the IR-18 visited Avondale, Arizona. But if you go back to season 4, 12 cautions on the day. We are not so far away from that one. Let's see if 49 laps we can get the next 12 cars around without incident.
Almost feel like I gave the commentator's curse at this point at the start of the action with how things have played out. But we'll see how things are with this amount of cars.
It might be even more exciting, actually, for the race lead. Taylor with a very good launch. Rolfe not such a good jump this time around. On board with the nose cam with Alexis Newsom. Straight to the inside. She looks a side-by-side for second position. This time around, Justin, Matt Taylor wants to see these cars squabbling for second, third, and fourth.
Needs to build a bit of a buffer. And in fact, trying to build up a bit of a snake down the straightaway. Try and break up some of the straight line draft. Newsom tried to send it as hard as she could last time. Keep in mind all the way to the apron. That's how important the track position's gotten. Is Rolfe now trying it?
Back to the inside line, but we've seen how strong the momentum on the outside can be. 3 laps into the run, side by side at the line. It's Newsom who holds on just about. Taylor with a 0.5 of a second advantage, Justin. He will be delighted at how this is playing out right now. 46 laps to go, and the 8 car in control.
Keep in mind that it's still going to be very tight for Matt Taylor unless he gets another caution to potentially save with when he came in. So in other words, if it continues to be racy, this is exactly what he wants to see. Guyon having to lift hard off the gas to make sure he doesn't push up into the safer barrier.
26 positions gained. We'll have to take a look at the movers and shakers when we can. There goes Mike Rigney, though, trying to get to the inside of the 08, and at the line, the all-white machine might be able to get the move done. 6/10 though the gap between first and second, as Guyon does hold on from Rigney for now. 33 starters. Taking a look at the timing screen, Justin. 11 cars on the lead lap with Nick de Groot, like you said, out there trying to salvage what he can.
Has the fastest car on the racetrack too, de Groot at the moment is. So there's that going for him at the moment, but starting to trade the lap times now is this grouping. Newsom has now picked up the sniff of the draft from Taylor to try and close up down the straightaway.
On board, we ride with Barrett and Rolf. It's going to be a rookie if it's any of these top three. Look who's lurking in fourth, though, Justin. Tony Schowen, who's been so consistent this season. No victory to speak of. Could today be the day for the 31 machine?
I think today is definitely a very solid day. Tony Schowen, though, needs essentially to pass by Rolf and Newsom to put himself in that spot in case Taylor gets tight on that gas. He's been close to the wall a few times. He's been close to trouble a couple times, but he's kept his car clean. He's been quietly and deceptively been inside the top 10 throughout the day with some of the strategy. So he's definitely got the speed. I'm not sure how things could play out, though, depending on how things fare with this snake starting to build up with Van der Sant keeping the pressure up.
We're riding on board with the 08 of Guyon as the 97 looks to try and get up into what might be a podium position. The interesting thing here now, Justin, now that Newsom and Rolf are no longer squabbling over second, Taylor, who at one point could have maybe thought that he could have done some fuel saving in these last 39 laps, now has to go full bore to the end because Newsom will not let up the pace until the checkered flag flies.
Yeah, this is going to be very concerning, I think, absolutely for Taylor, who has had that speed all season long, just hasn't had the luck in a lot of the cases and a lot of the different races so far. In other words, it's going to be a lot of pressure now and puts a lot more attention towards the battle for second as well as this battle, because this could be potentially a podium coming up in the line if Taylor has to duck down to the pit lane in the closing laps.
Well, Van der Sant has squeaked on through on Tony Schowen. We're riding on board with Guyon in through turn 1 and 2 as he gets into the dirty air. Has to get out of the throttle, but able to get out of the wall as well. So, heart in his mouth. 26 positions gained on the day in a race where attrition has been oh so important. Left side of the screen, Justin. Take a look at the movers and shakers of today's race. I mean, Van der Sant, Schowen, and Houston, etc. have lost a couple of positions, but everyone who is still on the lead lap has been a big winner, and very much it's been patience that's taken them to the front of the field.
Exactly, and if you want to survive these types of races, you need to be patient. You need to keep yourself calm. You cannot get yourself stuck in your head and let yourself get emotional when you have the cautions, precautions, 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 precautions. You need to get yourself to where you're in the proper mindset to make sure you're not thinking about those 11 cautions right off. If you are, you get yourself involved in said cautions. You keep yourself calm and loose and keep yourself focusing on the task at hand to survive to the end. You can get yourself to the end, and that's what exactly some of these drivers are. In particular, Trevor Malone, who's already had to dodge a couple wrecks, has had to get a front wing changed, is putting himself for a potential top 10 run.
If I'm remembering correctly, not one front wing, but 2 front wings replaced on the teal.
Yeah.
Number 69 car. So yeah, I mean, and again, thinking ahead, these are 3 back-to-back weeks of action, 2 back-to-back short tracks as well. Point accumulation is vital. And for someone like Trevor Malone, they have worked their way up. 32 laps to go, though, at the front. Gap now, 9/10 of a second, Justin. If there was a fuel-saving mode for Matt Taylor, he hasn't activated it just yet. The question is he good to the end of the race?
Still going to be very close because right now, remember, he's going to have to stretch to 57. He did have a caution or 2 to help him save a little bit, but it's still going to be tight. There is lap traffic ahead. Keep in mind that is also going to potentially play a factor to this fight. That could really potentially impact things with Matt Wagner once he gets up there, possibly.
Van der Sant has closed onto the back of Newsom and Rolf here, so incredibly strong run from the 97, Justin, and he might demote Barrett Rolf out of the podium positions if he can do so.
Yeah, Van der Sant looking very confident, keeping himself clean throughout the day. Was one of the quickest drivers in practice, keep in mind, inside the top 5, second best in qualifying, one of his best starting positions, if not his best starting position all season. And now, just needs to wait for an opportunity to pounce, because it can be difficult from this point forward to make the move. You need to wait for somebody to make a mistake, or for you to build up enough momentum. And right now, Van der Sant, he's definitely pushing as hard as he can to gain as much momentum as he can. He's been dialing in those exits off turn 2 in particular.
Final 27 miles at the line as who's that coming down onto pit road? That's Matt Wagner in the gray and blue machine. Not sure if there was something there, but he's now down in 12th. And well, Nick de Groot, who was trying to get whatever points he can, at least one position gain there as de Groot up into 11th. The front 4 cars, Justin, have broken away 1.8 seconds of the gap between 4th and 5th. Tony Schowen still defends from Mike Rigney, but they're not fighting as hard now. They know they need to close in as look at Rolf to the inside of Alexis Newsom.
Newsom really had to lift there to make sure that Newsom didn't hit the safer barrier there. And that ended up losing them another 0.2 as a result of that move. They were not gaining time. So Barrett Rolf is starting to get to where I think he feels that Newsom's starting to hold him up a little bit. Newsom may have scraped the wall there trying to arc it in.
Wonderful aerial look brought to us by ATVO, graphical partners at racespottv. Matt Wagner is already off of pit road and back out there and circulating. Let's see where he speeds out in comparison to the race leaders. The gap still under 1 second, though, as Alexis Newsom able to hold on to that second position at the line. She was 1/10 quicker, Justin, than Taylor, so she may be able to reel in that number 8 machine.
Now before was looking like Ralph was now getting held up. Now it looks like Newsom has finally gotten into a bit of a rhythm here, and looking at the times from Taylor, Taylor might be starting to press the panic button in slight touch, because he's now backing off a 10th second per lap, allowing Newsom and company to close on in a little bit more here with 22 to go.
I wonder if this is fuel saving, Justin. I wonder if maybe he's done the math and realized he's going to have to do something to extend the fuel that he's got underneath him, on board with Van der Sant, who's putting all sorts of pressure onto Barrett Rolf. You can see, though, the gap between the top 4 cars down to 1.5 seconds.
It's going to be very tight, and I've also noticed that Taylor has been slipping and sliding a little bit, coming off the bottom in 3 and 4, hasn't been quite getting towards the yellow line at both ends of the speedway. So that's also allowing Newsom to close on in. The tough thing's going to be, once everyone else gets up there, the aero wash is going to be a major factor on can the other drivers fully close to the back end of Taylor. Taylor now with the aero wash coming back. Spin will stretch it back out by a couple tenths.
20 miles to go then here. Gap between first and second down to 0.9 of a second as Barrett Rolf also searches for his first Lionheart career victory. For Van der Sant, it would be a victory as well. First time in his rookie campaign in a season where it's been all about the rookies. They run 1, 2, 3, and 4. The caution flies, though, for the 13th time today. I believe it's Jeff Murray by himself, Justin, on the main straightaway.
Clipped the apron in 3 and 4, but then also snapped loose coming off of turn 4 in general. Yeah, just on his own. Just hooked right around on him, it seemed, in that moment, and completely sheared off both wings.
Back under caution then, and setting ourselves up for a dash to the finish, Justin. Just double checking my notes here that I've got. We are at 12 cautions, not 13 if I called that out incorrectly. So not as bad as I may have initially thought, but now it's all about for Taylor. He knows he's good on fuel. Newsom, Rolf, Van der Sant, they need to get this one done out on track.
This exactly is what Taylor needed to see to be able to make it in. Oh, look at this. Newsom's going to try and get fresher tires here.
This is a interesting strategy call, Justin, followed in, I believe, by Mike Rigney and Trevor Malone. Tony Schowen as well. So there are championship contenders trying to come down onto pit road, Justin, searching for a victory Newsom and Shawan, they're tied on 217 points apiece coming in to the race weekend.
I think this is a gamble knowing that there's only so many cars left on the racetrack where it's like, why not? You only have 16 or 15 to go when we get back racing, yes, but you may as well see if the fresh tires are enough to get you the race victory, at least get you some more spots. And I think that's the thought process here from some of these drivers. Just try and see if this will work out the way you hope it will.
Where are they going to start, though? That is the question. Newsom in 5th, but with lap traffic in between her and the cars in front. Take a look at the onboard look here with the 63, Justin. That's the view. It's de Groot who's going to come down and help his teammate. I'm not sure who the cars in front are.
I believe that was Murray also came in for the damage repair for the demolished race car. So I believe that's now all lead lap traffic just about now in front, yes. So 5th position for Newsom, Shawan in 6th, Rigney 7th, Malone, Houston 8th and 9th respectively. There might be enough cars on track to make this work possibly.
And it will be, what, 14 to go at the line, Justin, because 14 to go when we get back underway because the lights are still off on, still on the pace car, excuse me. Taylor, Rolf, Van der Sant, Guyon. Those are the 4 cars out there on the older tires. Then it's Newsom, Shawan, Rigney, Malone, and Matt Houston. The 9 cars all on the lead lap. Nick de Groot finds himself with a top 10 on the cards here, Justin. He's just going to nurse that car home to the end of the race.
Yeah, just needs to keep things going because you never know if you have more opportunities to be able to pick up positions, and that's why you keep on going on the racetrack. You never know if you get an opportunity to get back on the lead lap or be able to gain more valuable positions. For de Groot, that's exactly what he's been needing at this point.
Lights off then. 14 miles, and it's the sprint to the checkered flag. 33 cars took to the green, and when it waves for hopefully the final time today, 9 cars on the lead lap, 10 cars out there on track. Lap traffic will not be a factor with Nick de Groot at the tail end of the field. Justin, I'm going to ask you for a prediction here. Do you think Newsom can do it, or do you think Rolf with slightly newer tires can get on past the 8 of Matt Taylor?
I'm liking the better chances for Rolf because of the track position, but honestly, I'm not quite sure what's going to happen. Clean air has been very important. Taylor's done a good job to be able to build the buffer, but this start is going to be important. I think Rolf's got a great shot, though, on being able to do this.
He's had a pretty good launch on a number of occasions. Not so good this time around. And at the line, Van der Sant already jinxed to the inside, trying to get up into 2nd position. But the 33 slams the door shut, and momentum on his side. Newsom on the fresh tires, already to the inside of Alex Guyon. Let's see how quickly she can carve her way up into 2nd position.
The tough thing's going to be, with 13 to go, getting the job done at 13 to go. Getting a bit of help, though. It's a bit dicey for the race lead.
You can see it was Rolf who tried to get to the inside, but those older tires from Taylor just about hanging on. Newsom past Van der Sant up into 3rd. Fresh tires, Justin. They may propel Alexis Newsom to a 3rd victory on the season as she's going to take it 3 wide at the start-finish line up into 2nd position in the 63 Big Blue.
What a launch and what a span of laps for Newsom. Now this is what Taylor needed to see to try and utilize the clean air, to try and equalize things out. Is it going to be too big of a tire split, though, now?
And watch Shawan as well. He's tucked up behind Barrett Rolf. We're riding off the rearward shot from Matt Taylor as Rolf defends from that 63. Not going to be able to do so. He might slide up and give the position to Tony Shawan as well. Newsom is released. 10 laps to go at the line here, Justin. It's been a stop-and-start race, but it's exciting at the death.
And Taylor knows that can't afford to let the draft get away at this point. This is going to be where the snake has to come into play. But Newsom, all she needs to do is get this done cleanly and properly. Going to be very defensive, though, if you're Taylor.
Here comes the move, already done. Fresh tires, working a treat for Alexis Newsom, and the rookie down to the inside, Justin. Race lead with 9 laps to go.
What a job by Newsom to cut through the field. Now the question is, How will things play out for these closest stages? Taylor's going to try it on the inside, though, and send it.
Can he get it done? Slides up into the path, loses the rear end. Caution's going to fly. Rolf gets collected, and it was looking like a potential podium finally for the Ascari Autosport driver. But Matt Taylor, Barrett Rolf, 8 laps to go, Justin. It all comes crashing down.
Taylor did not want to lose the race, to put that simply. With that send, he tried as hard as he could to try and make it stick. The problem is the tires just wouldn't let it stick. Nowhere for Rolf to go as Taylor ricocheted back up the racetrack. You got to give Taylor credit. He tried as hard as he could, but man, what a hard hit all the way to the flag stand.
One more look. Watch this onboard with Mike Rigney in the 0-0. Jinx to the inside, sees that one coming, and the reaction times there might have earned Mike Rigney a podium finish here today, Justin. Let's jump back to the live pictures and figure out how many laps we'll have to go at the line. It might be a 5-mile shootout between Alexis Newsom, Tony Schowen, and Mike Rigney.
And now it goes from the tires to the restart procedures coming into play once more. As I think Van der Sande ended up coming into the pit lane as well to try and roll the dice potentially. See if anything can be done by Alexander, but it's going to come down to, 1, how much fuel's in the cars, because they're already fuel burning, but 2, how they handle the restart, because we've seen a couple last restart passes for the win here at Phoenix this year in Lionheart competition.
And we'll get a third winner as well. It was Galvin in the IndyCar, Sage Karam in the Retro Series, and Nick de Groot still out there in circulating. Might get an 8th place finish, Justin, after we saw him involved in contact with Anzaldo. What was it, on lap 115, give or take. So he's rolled around for 60-plus laps. He's managed to find a number of points-paying positions. That's the kind of determination you need in a season-long championship.
Absolutely, and this is a huge, huge points day potentially for all the drivers in the field, because some of these drivers needed some good runs in the points, to say the very least, and this helps propel a lot of them, in particular drivers like de Groot, who is 29th, Rigney, who is 26th coming in, up the point standings and then some. But I think we're having to restart with under 5 laps to go. This may be the one shot Tony Schowen has this race if he can get a good launch.
Some fuel burning going on as well. With Van der Sande back in 6th position, there'll be 4 laps to go when we get back to the green flag action at the line. The lights should turn off on the iRacing pace car. There they go. 4 miles. That will be it. Does Alexander Van der Sande have enough, Justin, from 6th position on this restart to do what Newsom did? I don't think he's going to have the opportunity. The question really is, like you said, Newsom, Schowen, or can Rigney get the jump of his life?
Newsom's in the best opportunity as long as she's able to defend and gets a great launch. I think it's going to be hard to beat her. But if Tony gets enough of a run to force it side by side, anything can happen. We may see fireworks go off here to end this race.
And we know the next caution would end the race. Fireworks might be on the agenda a couple of laps before they were scheduled at the checkered. Newsom, Schowen, Rigney, Malone, and Houston, the top 5. Final time, the green flag about to wave at the ButtKicker Phoenix. 175 presented by Karnox. It's a good launch from Newsom. It's a better launch from Tony Schowen as he tries to close in on the lead. With Mike Rigney and Trevor Malone not getting the best of launches, Justin. In through turn 2, here comes Tony Schowen with the draft.
What a great launch, and might be able to get enough of a pull to try to attack this lap. There goes the diamond to build up the ramp.
Newsom looks to the inside to defend, thinks better of it, will roll the outside, but Schowen, so much confidence on fresh tires, Justin, able to get clear. Here comes Newsom in the Big Blue 63 trying to come back.
And it's going to be difficult now. We've talked about on these restarts, the bottom line's been dominant, and now it's coming to play here, but here comes the slipstream coming in.
2 laps to go. At the line, it was Shawan in the 31 that led, but Justin, Mike Rigney is lurking. I don't think they'll have enough to challenge Shawan here. He's going to paint the white line. White flag about to be in the air.
Newsom's going to have one opportunity, just one, to try and get this done. Needs to get side by side off this corner to have a true shot.
Jinking her way to the outside line. White flag in the air. 1 mile left here in Phoenix, Arizona. Can the veteran hold on, or will it be the rookie for the 3rd time this season into HyperX victory lane? Very aggressive on the over-under, but it's Ohio's own Tony Shawan. First victory on the season, and he goes to the top of the championship standings here at the ButtKicker Phoenix 175, presented by Karnox. Stop and start race, Justin. At the end, though, a electric finish. And it's Tony Shawan, so consistent on the season so far, finally getting into the HyperX victory lane.
What a way to end this off. Yes, stop and start, but what a firework-filled finish to be able to hold on. And there was some give and take being given there towards the end as well, I think. What a race. And what a finish.
Margin of victory, 1.5 tenths of a second. It is not the closest finish we've had at Phoenix in the IndyCar, but it is close. Second closest finish we've had in the DW12 era. It is Tony Shawan for Adrenaline Motorsports once more in victory lane. Difficult day for basically every team up and down the standings, but Shawan, at least the best of the runners for Adrenaline, continues the donuts in the dogleg as well, Justin, and I'm sure once we get to talk to him in the HyperX victory lane, we'll hear the emotion in his voice.
Absolutely. I don't think this is how he wrote the script for how we get the victory for tonight, but overall, played the strategy right, kept the car clean, and most importantly, was able to have one of the best restarts the entire season so far to dial things up and find his way to victory lane.
And the thing about restarts, Justin, is what looks like a good restart, when it happens, you don't know. It's about timing, it's about the moment, and getting it right, and Shawan nailed it. I said he got the restart that he needed. I'm glad that I was proved right. And it's the rookies that are not able to best the veterans here today. The Karnox race results, 175 stop and start laps later. It is for Adrenaline Motorsports, the 31 in victory lane. 1.5 tenths back is Alexis Newsom, oh so close to her 3rd victory of the season. She will be one to watch out for, and well, Shawan and Newsom in general, some of our championship favorites. Podium for Mike Rigney in the 00, up 7 positions on the day with Trevor Malone. Now, lots of damage repair on the teal number 69. 17 positions, Malone, one of our hard chargers. Alexander Van der Sant started on the outside of the front row. He finishes with a top 5. He will be satisfied, but would have been hoping for slightly more. His teammate Matt Houston across the line in 6th with Alex Guyon in 7th. 25 positions gained for the 08. Nick DeGroot in 8th. Barrett Rolfe in 9th with Matt Taylor in 10th. Disappointment for the 33 and the 8. Given how the closing stages were going for them, it's Jeff Murray, Matt Wagner, Jim Brooks, George Anzaldo, and Craig Forsyth 11th through 15th. The first of our retirements with Christopher, Joe Branch, Jeff Young, Christopher Kresge, and the Muscle Man rounding out the top 20. Dean Moll in 21st with Brian Greenlee, Michael Hagstrom, Robert Malechka, Chris Fowler, Jason Galvin, Paul Jenkins, Emerson Santos, Vern Hawkins, and Ron Hacker 21st through 30th. Lots of big names getting caught out in early incidents with Luis Gonzalez Nunez and Charles Teed. Ken Hacker, the final 3 cars in today's field. So let's make our way into the HyperX post-race show, because the Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, the makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows that we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperxgaming.com, and don't forget to use the promo code Lionheart15, that's LIONHRT15, for 15% off all orders. And let's make our way straight then into the HyperX victory lane and dial up Tony Schowen, victor for the first time this season, and the first time since Season 8 at Chicagoland in the IndyCars in Lionheart competition. Tony, how was that race for you? You finally get the victory. It's been a consistent season for you. It just took a bit longer to get to victory lane than you might have hoped.
Yeah, for sure. I've been waiting for that one for a few races, and everything fell into my hands. It was just a matter of the cautions and timing of the strategies too. And Alexis and I taking tires there definitely was the right decision with those other guys. They were slow as molasses out there with those older tires. But yeah, it's. I got to say though too, Alexis was easy on me. I didn't think I'd get the win. I thought she would be able to hold the bottom, and she was easy on me and gave me the bottom on one time, and that's all she wrote.
In terms of the stop and start nature, Tony, how did you deal with that one? You were cycling your way up and down through the field, having to deal with clean air at times, dirty air at other times, all the while thinking about strategy. Was there ever a moment where you guys were starting to get a bit frustrated? At the end of the day, it could have been a lot worse for the team overall, because Chris and Joe, given the number of retirements that we had, 17th and 16th for those two, it could have been worse for the team as well.
For sure, yeah. I mean, it's definitely a disappointing race for the team, but I'm glad I was able to pull through and kind of hold anchor on them. And then, but yeah, the strategy was just basically trying to stay out as long as possible so that you could have, or stay out at the end so that you could be up front. And that's what those other top few guys did and stayed out on that very last pit. And that's what I would have done. But there weren't very many cars behind you to worry about pitting. They're basically all going to pit with you anyway, so it only cost me one spot, I believe. So it was definitely a strategy decision that took it home.
And you've been so consistent this season, Tony. I think you started off with 3 consecutive podiums. Now you're at the top of the championship hunt. I mean, still very early in the season. We head to a short track once more in just 7 days' time. What do you think about Gateway, and how do you start to view this championship and the fact that you're right in the mix at the top of the heap?
Yeah, I just got to be consistent, like you're saying. Top 5s and a win here and there will at least get you up there at the end of the season to be able to fight for it. And so basically that's where I'm at right now. Just, stay clean is all I got to do.
Congratulations, Tony. Go off and I'm sure get some sleep. Must be rather late for you right now, and I'm sure you'll be celebrating this come tomorrow.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So, Adrenaline Motorsports, Tony Schowen, victory lane for the first time this season. And let's go straight then to second place finisher Alexis Newsom, and Justin Prince is standing by.
First things first, talk us through that battle in the closing stages. It came down to essentially a 4-lap shootout. Alexis, what was your viewpoint from that battle? What was that like?
Oh, I just, I guess. It was a lot of fun. I tried to defend against him, and I wasn't as good on the inside as some of the other people were. And so I tried to make the outside work, and he stuck it. And that's what I learned in his part.
How difficult was it tonight to be able to get yourself into a flow or rhythm with how the race played out, in your opinion?
Well, it was really difficult. It seemed like every time I get going a bit, something would break it up. And I just had to put everything out of my mind, I guess, and focus on marks except for myself on the track.
Thank you very much for the time, Alexis.
Thank you.
So close to a 3rd victory on the season, but instead settles for 2nd. Very consistent in the championship. We're taking a look at some of the shots of all of the action in the closing couple of stages. I mentioned it with Chris there, Justin. 3rd back-to-back week of action in just 7 days' time. Back to the short track action as well. Worldwide Technology Raceway. Not sure how that's going to really race, but we continue this trend of, veterans versus rookies. It's only been 2 veterans this season taking wins so far, both of them from Adrenaline Motorsport. What can the rookies do next time at Gateway?
Well, I think next time we're going to see drivers look for a vengeance and look for a bit of redemption after what happened tonight, because it was a tough race, absolutely. It was attrition filled, absolutely. But it's a more challenging racetrack coming up. It's also a racetrack, though, that can really spread things apart, and the battles, I think, are going to be absolutely entertaining, Arjuna. It's going to be a race where I think the rookies are going to be in a good spot, but the veterans are also going to be in a great position, knowing that experience is vital at that track.
And before we say goodbye, we have some thank yous to get to as well. The Lionheart Racing Series has so many great sponsors, and let's kick things off by talking about the sponsor of the Lionheart Speedway Series, the DMLC Racing Channel. If you're looking for entertaining sim racing content, look no further than the DMLC Racing Channel. Follow former Lionheart Retro Series Driver of the Year, Mark Cohn's racing escapades as he battles for wins and avoids wrecks with cat-like reflexes, all while providing commentary sure to make you laugh, cry, or both. Follow along by subscribing to the DMLC Racing Channel on YouTube and like his Facebook page at the DMLC Racing Channel. The Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows that we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperxgaming.com, and don't forget to use the promo code Lionheart15, that's LIONHRT15, for 15% off all orders.
The Sim Experience AccuForce Pro V2 is the premier professional simulation racing steering system. The key to its incredible realism is the groundbreaking direct drive motor control system, providing a driving experience that's second only to the real thing. For more information on the entire Sim Experience ecosystem, visit www.simexperience.com.
For sim racers, the ButtKicker Gamer 2 or Simulation Kit adds the missing driver-to-car connection, bringing more realism to your sessions. By accurately responding to in-game audio, you can feel the track like never before, providing increased vehicle handling and faster lap times. Are you ready for the most immersive experience in sim racing? Well, for more information, visit thebuttkicker.com, and don't forget to use the promo code LION2021 for 20% off all orders.
Minus 273 is the premier name in karting gloves. Their industry-leading gloves are super lightweight and durable, made of breathable poly spandex. Whether you're a kart or sim racer, Minus 273 gives you the control to reach victory lane. For more information on Minus 273's full line of gloves and apparel, visit minus273.biz. Don't forget to also use Minus 273 LHRS15 for 15% off orders.
And it's not just those names that we've talked about, but there's so many more as well. Up on your screen are the partners of the Lionheart Racing Series, and to learn more about these names, visit lionheartracingseries.com to find out more. There you can also find all the information about all 3 competitions organized by the Lionheart sanctioning body, and you can join the Lionheart Discord to keep in touch with all of the competitors. Not just the Lionheart team that you want to follow. Make sure to follow them on social media as well, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and you can keep up to date with the latest comings and goings in the Lionheart competitions. ESTV, as always, has you covered for your esports need, and you can follow them across of Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. At racespottv, lots more IndyCar action coming because it's the month of May. This coming weekend is the iRacing Fixed 500, the 2nd annual edition that Sage Karam won 12 months ago. I'll be very curious to see if he comes back to defend his crown. A week after that, though, the iRacing Open 500 and the 12th annual running of the race. Brandon Traynor will look to make it 3 victories in a row. Be very curious to see if he can do so. Lots more Lionheart action to come as well. This coming Thursday, the Lionheart Retro Series heads down under to Phillip Island for another road course race. The Lotus 79 will be broken out at one of the most fun courses in Australia, and we'll see who comes out on top in our classic duel in a land down under. We'll be back in 1 week's time for continued coverage in the Lionheart Speedway Series from the Worldwide Technology Raceway. But for now, from the team at racespottv, it's so long goodbye. My name is Arjuna Kankipati. I've been joined by the wonderful Justin Prince, and we'll see you in 7 days' time for more Lionheart competition.